there is another Xbox game that we have talked about in the past, but Miranda did not get the chance to talk about it, and Ash had a wonderful preview on The Verge on South of Midnight. I've already talked my piece on it in a previous episode, but I want to toss it to y'all. Ash, you had a preview slash interview with Ahmed Best, who is an famed actor, but also is the game's performance and voice director, mocap director. So it's an
Hmm.
interesting transition in his career. I think you said this is in the article, it said this is like his first time this deeply involved in a video game production. Um,
Yes.
and you have a lot more insight on it. So I want to kind of give you the floor to talk about your perspective on South of Midnight.
My perspective on South of Midnight, which you can read on theverge.com, is basically like I had a hard time playing it, not because the game was bad or hard to do, but because, like, within minutes of, like, firing up this very short demo, I just started bawling. And, like, it's kinda really hard to play when you're
Oh,
bawling, like, through the entire, like, 90-minute. I don't think it was even that long, 90-minute thing. Like, I could hardly see because I was so, like, overwhelmed emotionally in, like, the best kind of way that it's like, this is impossible for me to play. Because I'm having a hard time describing the emotion or the feeling, but there's a moment in this game, like throughout this game, it's just like suffused through this game where you, as a Black person, which I am, you can see that if you're watching the video feed,
yeah.
that it's like recognition. Like you see something like, oh, okay, I know what that is. Like I know what that is intrinsically. That is for me. This game sees me. And it's been a real, real long time since I've had that kind of emotion from a video game. And it's like, oh, that's what that feels like. Ooh, that's like, it gets you in right in the heart, and I loved every minute of it. Like, there was a moment I described in the preview where you're learning how to double jump, and then this children choir comes in, and I'm like, "I don't know what they're singing, I'm not familiar with this song," but because it feels like, a church song that I would've heard, going to church when I was a little kid, I'm like, "Ooh," like, it's, like, kinda ripped my heart out in the best kinda way. Man, and then talking to Ahmed Best, who I unironically love, like, if you're not familiar with him, like, Google him, you will know immediately who this man is, and knowing about him as a person, like, his journey as an actor, the kinds of things that he's had to overcome that just were so unfair, the kinds of things that happened to him behind, something that should have been, like, really substantial to his career is just, like, it's so gutting, and then to see him, like, transcend that and become, like, this very respected actor's actor who teaches directing and does directing and now getting involved with this video game is, like, so inspiring to me. Like, this is the kind of shit that I love as a journalist. Like, these are the
Mhm.
kinds of stories that I wanted to tell when I first started this job. And hearing him talk about how he's coaching the actors about the way that they walk, the way that they talk, the way that they stand, because this is a very Black game that's made by and written by and acted by Black people. And he's talking about, like, well, a person from Louisiana stands differently than a
Mhm.
person from New York. And you think about that, it sounds like a funny statement on its face that doesn't make sense, but
That's real
no,
though.
it be true. Like,
Yeah.
I know how my uncle Swope stood, like, and my family is from the Midwest, but like my elders, like, my not my ancestors, but like, the generation above me, my mom, her people, my grandmother, they're from, like, Memphis, Tennessee, and like the South, like the deep,
Yeah, Deep South
deep.
is just
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is completely different, and those are the things that, I know, but I haven't experienced in a long time. I'm like, "Yeah, we do be standing differently," and just listening to the catfish talk and
Oh, yeah.
hearing, like, the voice
Yeah.
patterns, the tone and pitch, the little things that he says, like, "Oh, mortally offended if I, didn't mean to offend," like, that kinda shit, excuse me, that kinda
You're
stuff
good.
is like, "Oh, yeah," like, the people in the writing room and the people in, like, the actor's booth knew what they were doing. Like, this is not like, "We're gonna slap some fried chicken on it and call it a day." Like, this
Yeah.
is the real, like, serious, "I know what I'm talking about. I'm a subject matter expert. This needs to be in here just like this." Like, that kinda competency, especially about something as neglected as Southern Black culture is like, that's bar none. I'm excited for this game. Like, run it up. Do what you
Yeah.
can, go buy it twice, run it up. This game needs to be experienced by as much people as
Yeah,
possible.
I'm buying all the copies for everybody, man. One thing you touched on, I
The
did.
whole block, dude.
Yo, the whole block out here, Daly City. I got copies for all y'all. No, one of the things that you mentioned with the catfish and the way he talks, I'd mentioned this when I did talk about talk about the game in a previous episode, but I do want to bring it up again. Is like that accent. I'm 99.9% sure that is a Mississippi accent. And I had mentioned that the South is not a monolith. Everyone, like you said,
Mhm.
talks differently. There's different Southern accents. People from Memphis don't talk how people talk from like Savannah, Georgia. Don't talk about the way they talk in New Orleans and like Houston. Like everyone has their own way of being like from the South, and I recognize that accent. It's like as I have roots in Mississippi. Um,
Mhm.
I recognize that accent. I'm like, ooh, that's someone from Meridian, or that was someone from deep like Mississippi. The way they cut off their words and the way they string
Mhm.
their sentences along, I'm like, yeah, I that I I know people from like Memphis, from Kentucky, like they don't talk like that, but I do recognize that because I'm from Mississippi and I know people who talk like that, and that's like a small detail in this game that's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, they're injecting some real deep cuts here, and you could tell that it is made by people who know what they're doing, and that excites me.
That's what
One thing
okay.
I can sorry, that I can share from the interview that didn't make it into the piece, like, talking with
Oh
Ahmed
yeah.
Best, he was talking, like, at the end, like, he was excited for people to play this game because it means little girls will be able to cosplay as the main character with the hair growing out of their head, and we had this little, like, when you see other Black people in, like, these spaces and you give them the up nod or whatever, it was, like, the equivalent of that because he was, the Black video game player equivalent of that because he was talking we got to talking and we got to talking about, like, hairstyles and whatever,
Mhm.
and we mentioned the Killmonger cut.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like and how nobody in this game, or at least in this demo, has, like, the Killmonger cut because
Mhm,
sometime some like back like maybe 5 or 10 years like developers are like, okay, yeah, this is a cool hairstyle and we put it in every game for your character creators and we put it on every character that we make like a Black dude, so
mhm.
Eddie Gordeau and Echo, and you get a Killmonger cut and you get a Killmonger cut, but without like acknowledging the reality that that is not a hairstyle. It is, but it really isn't. Like nobody growing dreadlocks is such a hard thing to do, and it's such a labor intensive thing to do, and it creates like such a specific style when it's worn on your head. Nobody's cutting that shit off like that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You're good, you're good.
Nobody's like shaving their head in that specific way to have the locks like lay like that. Like some people do, don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
like when you grow dreadlocks, you are not cutting that stuff like that because you want them long.
Yeah,
So, yeah, like we just had that moment of recognition like, yeah, like this is for real, for real. Like this isn't set
yeah,
dressing. Like we're not just going to pick and choose like tropes that have gotten along for like these last couple years. We're serious about making this authentic and real, real.
yeah.
So I just love that.
That's cool. Miranda?
I was just gonna say it's like that's exactly what you hope to see. Like I've definitely played games with like Mexican story inspiration. It's like, please stop doing Day of the Dead for the love of God. Like stop. Like there's so much more to Mexican culture and
Mhm,
Day of the Dead is not exclusive just to Mexico. Like please stop. Anyway, but that aside, I think um just it's nice to have that interview context also, Ash, just to like see just the depth of which they're trying to get this right and making sure that
Mhm.
they have the right people in the room to ensure that, as you guys were saying, like the accents are right, postures are right, like all of that is correct. So I grew up in Texas, which obviously is not the deep South, but I have been to like Georgia. I lived there a little bit as well. And there's of course other times I've been to like Louisiana and stuff. And I think one of the things, and my dad actually has lived in South Carolina, so I've been up in there. And one thing I really loved too seeing was their attention to the wildlife, like
Mm.
the different birds and then the different little critters. And I think one thing that always makes a game feel alive and is hard to do is making sure that there is that endemic life and that you can kind of see that this place exists beyond people.
Mm.
And I just like also really love seeing that. That was just like a very small detail in this demo, but I just noticed it kept coming up. And like there's like these beautiful cranes and other little critters around. And kind of bringing it weirdly back to Expedition 33. One thing I really liked about this game, and I think that we had a lot of questions about, was the combat. We're like, what does this
mhm.
feel like? Because they didn't show it too much, and it does feel a lot more like when you get a combat encounter, like it is an encounter. Like you're getting ready and you're stepping into it. And in a
Mhm.
way, they do feel like combat puzzles because a lot of times they'll pair you with enemies that if you don't focus in the right order, like you're kind of screwed. And I was surprised by how hard it was. Um,
Yeah.
Not I think it is a little bit of the preview build tuning that they had, but I did
Mm,
like that there was a bit of a learning curve and just like, oh, you need to know these abilities, right? And how to best like use them and chain them in order to be successful in these fights. Especially because like healing isn't abundant. And so I kind of like that that was sort of the approach to it because there are fewer encounters. Like it's not like you're just walking around and then suddenly you're attacked. It's like it is very telegraphed. And I feel like I don't see as much of that with games sometimes. It's like constantly like action, action, action. And this one has like a nice mix between the storytelling, the puzzles, and then that combat. Um, One other thing that I really liked about it, and that I mean, like, I vaguely know what this is, but I think they did a good job of setting this up that this game is so much about the challenges of empathy and the how
mm,
we feel for the people around us and, like, what people hide from us to try to protect us. And, like, in this first story that we got to play too, it was a lot about, like, the community pressures to, like, remove your empathy and your care for somebody, and I liked how it allowed like our protagonist to sort of reflect a little bit on how that affected her and her relationships with people she loves. And I think I don't know. I just love like really heartfelt stories about family and community and the people you care about and what we do to make sure that people are protected from things that are difficult. And this was kind of like her having to dig in and see, oh, like I didn't realize all this stuff was happening for me. So I was protected from these really hard challenges. And now I can understand a little bit more and come back to this relationship with like a stronger person. And I think that was obviously just like such a short thing, but it was really emotionally resonant. And that's good because we're going to talk about a game later in a second. I think that is not emotionally resonant. And I was like, I'm
they
so
try.
frustrated.
It tries.
Yeah, just like no.
Oh,
But
damn,
We'll
damn,
see.
damn.
but no, not South of Midnight. Sorry, the next game we're talking about. South of
Yeah,
Midnight
yeah.
did really great with that
Mhm.
though, and so I'm pretty stoked for it. And that was kind of just like my big impressions was that. Also, exploration was really fun, and of course, as I had previously mentioned, I love the weaving theme. I love
Oh,
fibercrafts.
like
It's
the fact that she's
beautiful.
fighting with like spindle, like a distaff, and like those are so cool. I love unconventional weapons like that,
Yes.
and I think that is so cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh man,
Um.
yeah, it's South of Midnight is also feels like a game where everywhere I look, everything seems to be like really well made. Whether it's like the combat encounters, the platforming, like janky platforming, I can get over. I'll figure it out because Clair Obscur also has like some janky platforming, but it's like the things that matter
Yes.
most. This game is doing right, and I think that really came together once you finish the demo. Once that musical note comes in at the very end as you're climbing the tree and you're getting to the final part of that. That's when
Mm,
I
you
was
make me
balling
cry
at that
again.
point. I was like I didn't realize. I told people like this is like the second time I've ever cried from a preview build of a game. The first time was Persona 3 Reload. This is the second time that has happened, but for completely different reasons because it again like I didn't need big exposition. I didn't need things explained to me. I didn't need like a big bad tragic event to pull at my heartstrings. There's something very human about South of Midnight, and its storytelling is very genuine, and it comes from a place that like if you understand the struggles that have been around in that region for decades, for generations, you'll understand just like how impactful these characters' lives, like the impact of the stories that they're trying to tell. Even the small details when you go from like from one abandoned house to another, seeing the eviction notices and seeing that like, hey,
Mhm,
there's this community that's been around for a long time. That's like, and you see, in history too, you understand how much like generational black wealth has been squandered by the powers that be,
mhm,
and you see bits and pieces of that in this game as well. And it's like yeah, these are very real stories. They didn't just pull this stuff out of thin air. Like these are stories that are very real in American history, in American Southern history. So that gives me a lot of hope. Again, this is a preview build. It's about 2 hours. There's a full game to be played, but again, making huge impressions just based off of the little slice that we got to play. So
Yep.
yeah,
Also, magical realism. Yes,
magical. Yeah.
exploring very difficult and challenging topics and allowing us to get like indefinite. It's just so good.
Ah, yeah.
I know we have to move on, but I have to
Yeah.
say one last
Go
thing
ahead. Go ahead.
about what Michael was saying. The fact that they are able to tell, like, such stories that are endemic to, like, the Black experience, the Southern Black experience, but doing so in a way that is not, like, flagellating the trauma horse, porn
Mm.
horse, like
Mm.
doing that, like not ripped straight, like it is ripped straight from the headlines, but not in such a way that it feels exploitative or it feels like, like I said, recreating like trauma porn and like profiting off of that. It feels like a more human approach to those kinds of difficult stories is also really, really good because some usually in video games when you have like black protagonists or whatever, or it's like a black game or a black story, it's like rooted in this like trauma and it's treated for like a leering, like a spectacle that you stare at versus something that's like real. And then the other end of that is just like not acknowledging anything like that at all. And South of Midnight is doing this like perfect strike in the middle where it's like, yes, acknowledging these things happens, but not like dwelling on it or making that trauma or that pain or that sadness or suffering like the main element of like emotional tension or whatever. So good job.
Yeah. Well, as Miranda alluded to, I think I'm looking at our doc right here, and I think I know what you want to talk about. So I'm gonna hand the ball back off to you to talk about these next couple games. Oh, by the way, before we move on, actually, I just want to say that South of Midnight is coming soon, so the conversations are pertinent. That is dropping on April 8th. Ooh, buddy, I can't
April's a
wait.
good
So
month. April's a
April's
good
a good
month. I'm so
month, man.
excited.
That's crazy. It's coming soon, and I cannot wait to play that.